Welcome, everyone, to Matchday -1. Delighted to have you on board for the latest edition, Matchday -1, brought to you by PointsBet, official founding partner of Austin FC. I'm Adrian Healey here at St. David's Performance Center with Sonny Guadarrama alongside. Thanks for being with us live on Twitter and Facebook ahead of the big Sunday evening clash, Orlando City coming to town. But Sonny, before we get into what to look forward to on Sunday, so much to get into from Wednesday night. We'll start with the after party, which is we still got the afterglow from Wednesday night. I think it's worth reframing what our expectations were going into Wednesday night, coming off of the Salt Lake defeat, LA having lost themselves. We were a little bit concerned about that, weren't we? And I think, off air and maybe even on air, we were saying, hey, a point would be a great result here at Banc of California. They far surpassed that, didn't they?
No, they did. He said that, the point would have been fantastic, and then a win was glorious. Yeah. Especially after the Salt Lake game, having gone down a player for such a long time, we didn't know how their legs were going to be able to react against an LAFC squad that also had lost against Colorado. So all these factors going into the game, but the team definitely stood the test and not only got a point, but got 3 points out of it and played probably the best game of the season so far.
Yeah, and you were saying, I mean, even though LAFC maybe weren't at 100%, they still, in your eyes, were the best team we played, and you could see it clearly. So we had to be at our very best to produce what we did.
Well, I think Josh had said it. You had to play a complete game to win this game, and I think the team did. It wasn't one of our normal games, I would say. We got 2 shots and two goals out of it.
You got to like that ratio.
So effectiveness was great. Defending was great. Having Stuver back was great. Alex sitting in a little bit more in that holding mid position was great for the team. And just that game management. I think we've had so many scenarios. I think this was a different scenario. Scoring first, getting the game tied, and then coming out with a win. Just great overall.
Second goal obviously was crucial, particularly given what then followed. And I have to tell you, when Amanda Villarreal went to VAR to look at the Kip Keller challenge, you and I were just, I think that's when I lost my voice. You had to step in as a substitute. I was like, I've never seen a referee take as long as he did looking at that decision. You can almost hear the tension in the whole city at that time.
No, I think I'm a pretty fair judge. And even I struggled myself figuring out how he was going to go, but I think it helped that he didn't originally call the PK at the beginning, because I don't think that there was enough to turn it over. Had he called the PK, we probably wouldn't have complained about it, and they probably wouldn't have gone to VAR. Yeah. But I think we got lucky on this one, but I think we also deserved a break.
Absolutely. We can count many occasions when those decisions have gone against us. Even a game against LAFC last year comes to mind when Mr. Fagundes was called for handball. So they all even out overall. Thoroughly deserved victory. There we are now, top of the not just the Western Conference, top of the Supporter Shield standings. And now we're looking at a significant body of work, aren't we? This isn't the first 4 or 5 games. Now we're talking 12 games, more than a third of the way through the season. Statement win to go with a few other statement wins this season. When are we going to start being given the respect this team so thoroughly deserves? Maybe it comes now after beating LAFC. But
LAFC, the amount of goals we scored, how many goals we concede, the way we play soccer. I don't know. I think the MLS.
Not that it really matters. Yeah. But it's just an interesting talking point that respect has been kind of slow to arrive. We touched upon the second goal. Let's move on to the Rabona, because you and I were just in ecstasy watching this live, and we were both pretty clear what had happened with Sebastian Driussi and that pass he played for Diego Fagundes to set up the Fagundes run. What has become apparent since then is it wasn't that obvious because it was over the far side of the field, and I don't think the cameras perhaps picked it up as clearly as we saw it. But what he actually produced, Sonny, was what we call a Rabona. Just talk us through that and how difficult that is to do as a former player technically. Not only to do what he did, but play the pass in the manner he did.
What? Before even talking about how hard it is, it's who would even think of doing that in that type of situation?
Right.
That just tells you the type of player he is. And the fact that he can do a Rabona that comes up over the guy is probably the hardest part about it, because you can hit a Rabona and it might not go anywhere. It might just go straight, but just like that chip pass right into his run left him completely wide open, left 3 LAFC defenders just kind of standing around. They probably didn't even realize that he had done a Rabona. That's why he's in the MVP talks.
Yeah. Well, that was another example. He produces 1 or 2 moments like this every game without fail, where you think he's in an impossible situation. He's about to lose the ball. He's crowded out. He has 2 or 3 guys around him, and then sometimes it's a quick nutmeg and he's away, or a Rabona. As you say, just having the imagination to do it is.
We're lucky to have him. We're lucky to see him day in and day out, and I think he has just the magic touch, and hopefully he can continue to do this, because as long as he's on the field, we're always in the game.
Yeah. And again, All-Star, MVP, it has to be a front runner. I mean, All-Star almost a shoo-in at this point. I think it would take horses to stop him being there. But even MVP, when you look about who else is in the race, I mean, he has to be at the front of the queue at the moment.
And we've said this a million times. It's not just the goals that he's providing. He has assists.
Yeah.
His work rate.
Yeah.
The amount of, I don't know how many distance he's covering in a game, but I imagine it's a lot. In the final minutes of the game, coming back. I mean, I was an offensive player, and I know a lot of offensive. They're lazy on defense.
Sure,
and
you are.
He's not.
You don't want to come back and do the dirty work.
No, and he's not one of them. He's willing, to put in the dirty work, put in a tackle, get a yellow card, to help recover the ball. He's a complete player, and he's hard to find.
There is no league award for assist of the season. Maybe they should be. Maybe we should also be campaigning for that on that and that part of the game. Let's move on to one of the other big stories of Wednesday night. The Wolf. Teen Wolf, Owen Wolf, getting his first start. It was following the 30-minute, very bright performance we'd seen late on in the Salt Lake game, and Josh Wolf deciding the LA game was the right game to give him the start. What was your assessment of Owen's performance? Again, remember, playing a position that he hasn't played that much of in his young career, out wide right.
For me, I think the biggest thing is you couldn't notice a difference. Being a 17-year-old, you would think you'd be nervous, you'd be worried, especially the team that you're playing against playing away. But to me, he looks like he's playing consistently the same game every time. You can't tell that it's affecting him playing against Salt Lake away or starting a game against LAFC. He does a good job of keeping the ball, and I mean, we got a huge result with him playing a good portion of the game. So I think for him, just having this confidence and taking it into the rest of the season is going to be important. And I think he also helps offensively. He gets into positions that help the team out.
Yeah. I think the high praise from my perspective was a mistake I made in the middle of the game, where I thought he was Sebastian Driussi. Someone got on the ball and sent a circle. It would be where you would normally assume Driussi to be, and they're a similar build, same hair color, and I assumed it was Driussi dribbling circles around 2 or 3.
Getting a foul.
It was not. It was Owen Wolf, and you knew who it was.
They got a yellow card on that. They actually got 2 yellow cards on that play.
That's
no.
right.
Was that him and then?
Yeah. No, he definitely drew a yellow. But there was one where there was 2 yellows. But I mean, just to have that presence to be able to pull off that sort of move in the center of the park.
All right, and such a big game too.
Yeah, indeed. Unfazed by the bright lights. I mean, that's the thing. You throw him in, and this was a pressure game. I mean, there was a lot of attention on this game. So
that means that every other game, he should be able to handle it with no problem. Because if that was probably our biggest game of the season, moving forward, his confidence should be sky high.
Well, it's going to be really interesting to see what Josh does now after success on Wednesday night. Moving forward to Sunday, let's switch the focus to the enemy. Orlando City are in town. First ever meeting between the Verde and Black and the Purple, the Lions of Orlando, as they like to call themselves. Very interesting task ahead of Austin this week. The 4th Eastern Conference team we've played. We've won all 3 games and scored a lot of goals against Eastern Conference teams. But Orlando seem to be made of sterner stuff, Sonny.
No, it's a different team. Before the Wednesday match, they were sitting in first place. They didn't play midweek. And I think it's a different team. They don't get scored on a lot. They don't score a ton of goals either. It's those teams that come in and make it difficult, and they've done well on the road.
Yeah. Better on the road than at home, interestingly. They've lost 3 games at home, only 1 on the road. We've had common opponents. They beat the Galaxy on the road. They lost to LAFC at home, just sort of amplifying that
tied
point.
Portland, which is also a quality team in our conference.
And they have Oscar Pereira at the helm, and a man who knows this league very well and has always, set his stall out to play somewhat similar football that we're trying to do here. I think they've become more pragmatic, Orlando City, since his arrival. As you said, they've really based their success this year on not conceding many. They've scored 14. They've only let in 15. Actually have a -1 goal difference. But it suggests they're going to come here and be tough to break down.
And the fact that they didn't have a midweek game.
Yeah.
Probably a little bit more rested than us. And Oscar Pereira definitely, all eyes were on this game this Wednesday. So he's going to have a fresh memory of how our team plays and how we want to play. And I'm sure he's going to come up with something to contrast our offense, especially at home.
Yeah. And like us, they have a great sprinkling of fantastic South American talent. They have Mauricio Pereira, the Uruguayan playmaker, Pedro Gallesi, the Peruvian goalie, a couple of Brazilians at the back, Juan and Junior Urso. So
Pato.
Pato as well. Glad you brought him up. Will he start? That is one of the questions. For a big superstar world name, he hasn't been starting that regularly, has he?
I think that just shows you how good the MLS is, or how good the MLS is getting, is that even these big-time players struggle to get minutes if they can't even keep up with the game.
So let's move from that to Sonny's sentimiento. When you look at this game on Sunday, what do Austin have to do to win it? So we've already talked about what Orlando do well. They're solid, they're compact, they can hit on the break. How do Austin counteract that?
I think it's more about our team. The biggest strength we have right now is our momentum. Can we come out very strong and score early again? And it's going to feel like we're still riding on this huge wave from LAFC, and I don't see them stopping us. So as long as we can get out the gate and start strong and at home with our fans are going to be happy to see the team for sure. I think it could be a game where we have complete control.
Right. And you've been harping on that, how important that's been for this team. And they have made good starts in the last 2 road games. I mean, they took the lead in Salt Lake, even though they ultimately lost, took the lead early on in LA. And the last home game against the Galaxy, that didn't happen, even though you again were highlighting it as a key. So
it's just
first
huge.
20, 25 minutes.
And they have done a much better job. And I think even in the LAFC game, it was a little bit different. They started strong, but that didn't necessarily mean that they had a lot of possession or a lot of chances to score. But their first chance that they did have, they made it count, and it hurt LAFC a little bit.
Yes, it did. It did. So Sunday, lots to look forward to. Hey, home games are few and far between over the next couple of months, so make the most of this. We have to wait, I think, a month for the next home game. There's only one in June against Dallas. So let's finish with a moment of gratitude. We talked about him a little bit. The club captain, Alex Ring, has been under the microscope a lot this season. I think, possibly fairly from the fans questioning some of his play further forward. But he played as a number 6 and played superbly alongside Johan Valencia on Wednesday night and got the match ball afterwards. And he then, in a great moment that I'm sure a lot of you have seen, gave the match ball to Owen Wolff in the locker room afterwards and made a little speech. So gratitude for our captain, Sonny.
No, for sure. That tells you the type of captain that we have. Knowing that he had played a great game in a position that he hadn't played a lot so far this season and came up huge for the team. But for him to then give the game ball to Owen, I think that's going to mean a lot to Owen, and he's going to remember this probably for the rest of his life.
Oh, yeah. That ball isn't going anywhere. So gratitude to the ringleader, indeed. All right, great stuff. Thanks so much for being here again, Sonny. I'll have the pleasure of your company on the call Sunday, 7 o'clock kickoff time on the CW at this time. And don't forget our pre-game show. Myself, Sonny, Roger Valdivieso, hopefully a guest as well, maybe joining us. That starts at 6:30 p.m. Sunday evening, also on the CW, ahead of Austin against Orlando. Can't wait. Thanks for being with us for this Matchday -1, and we will talk to you right here next time.